These are AirPods, and well, I'm sure you know what they are. From the countless ads to the numerous reviews, you probably have somewhat of a gist on what they are as a product. Or do you?
Focus, keep it moving. Got to keep it moving. Keep on and on and on and on and on.
AirPods are a very interesting and captivating product. On one hand, they're very easy and convenient to use, but on the other hand, they have many weaknesses that ultimately prevent me from using AirPods in my day-to-day environment. Let me explain further. Now, I've had AirPods for around several weeks or so, and the first thing that strikes me is that charging case. Now, of course, you charge the AirPods by putting them in the case, so it basically acts as a home for the AirPods. And for Apple's first rendition of this, I think they were mostly successful. This case is shaped like a dental floss container, but there's nothing wrong with this in my book. I find it very easy to hold, and even without the AirPods in it, it still has a decent amount of heft. And this is because of the 390 mAh battery inside, which is meant to charge the AirPods, but more on that later. The case itself is made out of a grippy, glossy plastic, which actually feels the same as the plastic on the iPhone and MacBook charging bricks. Like I said earlier, there's no problem holding this case because of the grippy plastic, but there's one big issue: scratchability. Now yes, I am aware that the AirPods go inside the case, and the case is meant to get some wear and tear over time, but nothing like this. I've had these AirPods for only several weeks, and they're covered in long scratches that I can even feel if I'm really paying attention. The AirPods have not been in contact with keys or sharp objects, and yet, it looks like they've been in the washing machine for 24 hours. But in all seriousness, for the next rendition of the AirPods, I would love to see a model that's made out of matte plastic instead of glossy plastic. I'm sure this model would be much more durable. I hope. These AirPods charge via Lightning, and, well, I'm okay with this. Lightning is fine, and for many people who have iPhones, they may actually prefer this, because they could charge their AirPods and their iPhones with the same cable. But for me, I prefer USB-C, because I have a Pixel 2 XL, as long as a MacBook Pro, and these both charge via USB-C. Now on the back of the charging case, there's a small white button that allows you to connect to multiple different devices. This button is very flush with the surface of the AirPods case. It feels almost seamless. At the top of the case, there's the hinge, and this is made completely out of metal. It barely rattles around, and it's definitely built to last. I'm glad they opted for a metal hinge instead of a plastic hinge. The AirPods are probably gonna last much longer because of this. Now, opening and closing the AirPods is not that bad. At first, it's a little bit janky, but then after a while, you sort of get used to it. And it's kind of addicting. Yeah, it's a struggle. Okay, so I'm sure you're probably sick of the case. Let's talk about the AirPods themselves. So first impressions I get when looking at them is that they definitely look cutting edge. The AirPods are definitely futuristic looking. Let's not rant this time, but the AirPods are also made out of the same glossy plastic. But this time it's not that bad, since the AirPods are just staying in your ears or going in the case. I haven't found any scratching on mine. Now, if you look really close around the drivers, you can see the seam that Apple had to glue together to mold the AirPods. This is not a big deal, I'm kind of nitpicking here. If you look at them from a distance, they're definitely going to look pristine. One thing you are going to notice are the black circles on the sides of the AirPods, and these do something really cool. What these are basically sensors that detect if the AirPods are in your ears or out of them. So let's say I'm listening to music and somebody starts speaking to me, I take the AirPod out, and they automatically pause the music for me. And then when I'm done speaking, I put the AirPod back in, and it starts playing the music. Super convenient. Another convenient feature in the AirPods are the touch controls. So on the sides of each AirPod, there are basically touch sensors that do different commands. For example, if you double tap twice on one earpod, it pauses and plays music, and if you hold down the other earpod, it enables Siri. This is also really convenient. I've used some other wireless earbuds in the past, and they have an inline remote control. With AirPods, Apple kills the inline remote control, and for me, this is a game changer. I find it amazing that Apple has packed all this technology into the AirPods, which are basically only an inch long. I mean, serious props to Apple for this great technology. Of course, all of this fancy stuff doesn't really matter unless the AirPods sound good, or at least satisfactory, and, well, they do. These earbuds sound extremely decent for their form factor. They don't have detailed highs or rumbling lows, but they have a decent flat sound. The warm tones and curved sound signature is why I like using AirPods for day-to-day use. Are they going to replace my ATH M50X BTs? Well, of course not. But for the size, I'm really not complaining. So, my last video, the iPhone XR review, was partially edited with the AirPods in. And everything was going good, you know, the video was coming along well, I was moving ahead in the edit, and then I decided to take the AirPods out and review my timeline. And then I noticed that something was off. Everything didn't quite flow as it was before. And then after doing some careful examination of my clips, I noticed that every single cut was 3 milliseconds late. Now yes, this may not seem like a big deal to a lot of you guys out there, but really if you're video editing, precision matters. And a 3 millisecond difference is really not acceptable. So then I had to spend a lot of time adjusting all my clips and my timeline. It was really not a fun process. This really did slow down my workflow. After that mishap with the AirPods, I got the ATH M50X BTs, and I tested the Bluetooth functionality while editing. And to my surprise, there was no latency delay. If you want a good pair of earbuds for editing, these are probably not them. Now, on a higher note, I didn't mention some things that are definitely worth mentioning about the AirPods. The first thing is great battery life. These things can easily last for 5 hours on a single charge, which is pretty great. And yes, that may not sound like a lot, especially considering that other Bluetooth headphones can last days on end, like the ATH M50X BTs. I keep on referring to these. Oh, my computer shuts off, wonderful. But for the size, 5 hours is great. To sum up my AirPods experience, I found them to be extremely capable and convenient, but did have some drawbacks that did frustrate me. The fact that the AirPods case severely got scratched made me very frustrated. The fact that the AirPods slowed down my workflow because of a bad Bluetooth connection also made me frustrated. But at the same time, AirPods were so convenient and easy, it almost felt like you weren't even wearing them. This product has really good features and really bad features. And that's why having the AirPods for the last several weeks has made me feel broken, stuck between the good and the bad.